Greetings, everyone. Thank you for being here. Um, I have a very common reading on my table right now, and I usually don't entertain these, but this one just kind of keeps coming back no matter how many times I shuffle the cards or what decks I use. And thus the title, You Stopped Being Their Audience and Became Their Story. So there comes a point when you realize that you've stopped being the audience for something you no longer want to participate in. And somehow, in your absence, you become the story. Okay. And I really want to approach this reading a little differently today because I'm really not interested and asking who is talking about you or what are they saying. I'm not particularly interested in whether somebody is jealous of you, intimidated by you, or maybe they're secretly competing with you or hoping to see you fail, right? Could some of those things be true? Absolutely. Absolutely. But what if they're not? Or more importantly, what if you don't even need to know? Because the message that I keep hearing is that you left the conversation. Don't go back just because you heard that they made you the subject of their story now. There's something much bigger happening here, as always, when spirit is concerned, right? For me, the story or the reading is about stewardship. It's stewardship of our energy, stewardship of our attention, stewardship of our private world. It could be stewardship of our dreams, desires, relationships, our words, but ultimately, it is stewardship of our heart, our energy, right? So, before I get started, real quickly, I would like to thank those who are returning today. Thank you. I appreciate you and send you all my love and gratitude for the light that you bring. And for those who are returning, my name is Sybil, and all of the readings on this channel are timeless. It's actually being designed as a sort of library. None of the readings here are by zodiac or astrological alignments or dates and times or months and years. And I feel that Spirit had me do these for particularly that reason, right? So some of the readings that you may resonate with may be older. They may be older readings. Um, Either way, I appreciate everyone's energy and I am grateful for the light that you all bring. And so I will begin. All right. So the first question that I really have asked is what changed within you that caused you to stop participating in an old dynamic, whatever that dynamic may be? Because I'm seeing maturity here. I'm seeing someone who has gone through enough experiences that they're beginning to recognize the difference between connection and access. Okay. And those aren't necessarily the same thing. All right. We have a main female here. We have journey and child. And I love this progression because there's somebody here that is taking a journey toward an entirely new way of being or relating to life, right? The child itself doesn't necessarily mean that you're naive. It can represent a new beginning. It could be something new that has been conceived, a different way of living, of relating, maybe a different way of understanding what intimacy is. It might even be a new way of seeing and perceiving yourself. And I really want to use an analogy here because our passions, our dreams, our desires, and even new versions of ourselves often begin like the conception of a child. Before a child enters the world, there is a period of gestation. It's dark. Nobody can see it. Nobody can touch it. And nature does exactly the same thing with a seed. Before that seed ever breaks through the earth, its transformation begins underground. It germinates in darkness, right? So even the sun doesn't reach it there. But the darkness doesn't harm the seed. It's part of its development. The womb, right, is part of that child's development. Hidden does not mean stagnancy. It doesn't mean that you're afraid. And sometimes, in my own experience, what I've learned is that hidden can simply mean that something is still becoming new, right? So you may have something here that's developing within you right now that does not need everybody else's hands on it. It might be a dream, it might be a new direction, it may be a new relationship, it might be your healing, it might be creative ideas, right? New ideas, epiphanies. Um, it could be a new version of yourself, maybe that you're beginning to discover on this journey. Whatever it is, one thing we know is that conception is not completion. It's the beginning. And there's a period when something may need your energy before it needs everybody else's. Okay? Before it needs their attention. All right. So I also asked, I kind of was just curious, and this is just the way my mind works, right? And so I'm looking at these through the eyes of what did your withdrawal remove from this system or this relationship? All right. And this is where the false person becomes really interesting because I don't want to immediately turn the false person into somebody around you is evil or secretly plotting against you. Okay? Because to me, that's exactly the kind of reading I try not to give. And there's reasons for that. Um, the false person can absolutely represent deception. It can represent gossip. It can represent hidden behavior. Somebody saying one thing in front of you and something different when you're not around. It can be someone who ultimately demonstrates that they cannot necessarily be trusted with everything you give them. Okay. But the thing that matters, I feel, is that you don't really have to diagnose someone else's heart in order to recognize their behavior, right? That's why we say actions speak louder than words. So you don't have to know whether they're jealous or if they're feeling intimidated or if they're just wounded. You don't have to know whether their intentions are malicious. Um there's all sorts of reasons why, you know, this false person card would come up. Okay? So sometimes in my experience, people genuinely have good hearts or can genuinely have good hearts and still have unhealthy patterns, right? I mean, we've all been there where we're good people. We have kind, we have loving hearts, but there are still patterns and behaviors and beliefs that have been handed down generation through generation through generation that we now go inward and heal, and we kind of transmute and turn those patterns into something different, right? To something like a higher resonant energy. So sometimes people can genuinely have a good heart, and it really is just an unhealthy behavior. They may have, you know, grown up in an environment where talking about other people was just simply what everybody did, right? Gossip was how they learned to connect, right? It created connection, it created belonging, it gave people something to talk about. And that doesn't necessarily make someone evil, but at the same time, it also doesn't mean that you have to participate. And I think that that is important because not everyone who mishandles our vulnerability is our enemy, right? But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we should continue handing them that vulnerability, whatever that is, whether it be our dream, whether it be, our heartbreak, whether it be whatever it is, right? So we look at this false person and where it sits in this spread, and we have the wealthy man here. This false person appears to be behind him. Now, symbolically, that can absolutely represent something happening behind someone's back. I mean, I have to call it like it is. like it or not. Um, but does this person recognize the value of what they carry? This wealthy man here. Because I think it's about value, all right? And recognizing our value. Um, because wealth doesn't only have to mean money, right? I think we all get that. What if, wealth is our energy, it's our wisdom, it's our ideas, it's our private world, it's our creativity, it's our dreams, it's our vulnerabilities, right? And then above the false person, we have the child. Now, that can speak to naivety. Someone may underestimate another person or even assume that they will continue allowing something because they've allowed it before. This child, though, can also represent that new emerging thing that we just talked about, right? Whether it be something new or something tender, something innocent, something that doesn't need, say, indiscriminate access. Okay? Not yet. um, Beside the false person, down here at the bottom, we also have pathway. So this may be a pattern that has existed for quite some time. All right. But now there's another road that is entirely available. And I think this adjudication becomes incredibly important here, because adjudication can certainly represent courts and judgments in the traditional Kippur. Okay. But in this reading, I am seeing discernment. It's where we weigh two sides, right? You see the man and the woman here before the judge. So two sides are being weighed. It's the weighing of evidence. Okay. It's not, what do I think they're secretly feeling? Okay. It's not opinion. It's not what I'm assuming it may mean or their intentions are. All right. It's what has their behavior consistently shown me time and time and time again. That's discernment. And there's a big difference between discernment and suspicion, because suspicion, it can lead into this belief that everybody might be against me, right? It creates this open door where you become suspicious about everyone. And that's what we don't want to create in this reading. All right? Because discernment really, for me, discernment says, I don't need you. I don't need to make you anything. I don't need to make you my enemy in order to recognize what you have demonstrated to me time and time and time again. And so perhaps we're not being asked to investigate, right? It's not something where we need to retaliate or defend ourselves to everybody. It's not to go around gathering allies or to find out who said what to who. It's not to keep explaining a boundary that we've already set. And it's not to make somebody else's internal experience our own assignment. All right. Because somewhere, remember the message that I got is that you've left a conversation. You're no longer part of the audience. And if you've left the conversation or if you've left the audience, then you spend your time going over and over the conversation, wondering and assuming and investigating, asking what are they saying or who believes them or who defended me or should I explain myself? Should I tell everybody what really happened? Then that investigation, that assignment, it's you might have physically left, but you're remaining energetically seated in the middle of it now, right? Because now energetically it's you we're looping. We're looping in the very energy that we're trying to set a firm boundary on and say enough is enough. Well, if enough is enough, then we stop looping. Okay? So we don't need to know what they're saying about us when we're not in the room. And at the same time, you know, this is also where I feel accountability becomes incredibly important. Okay? Because personal responsibility doesn't mean taking responsibility for everything another person does to you, right? Going within does not mean finding a way to make everything our fault. Sometimes it's just the healthier question isn't really what did I do to create this? Sometimes I feel it's more about what belongs to me. What belongs to me right here and what belongs to them, right? Maybe you recognize that you repeatedly gave access where your experience already showed that access wasn't really being handled responsibly or carefully. Okay? That part is ours. We can say, okay, you've showed me time and time again that I can't trust you. Time and time again, I trusted you. I got the lesson now. We're good. We're good to go. I can handle that. We can learn from that. We can course correct. We can become more discerning, right? But another person's choice about what they did with the access that was given to them, that remains theirs, because accountability goes both ways. And I think this is very important. When I entrust something sacred to you, okay, I am responsible for discerning where I place that. And when you receive something sacred from me, you are responsible for the way you handle it. That's my perspective. This is the perspective that I'm coming from and bringing into this reading. Okay? So, um like I always say, take what resonates and leave the rest. Lovingly leave the rest. I'm not asking anyone to adopt my perspective. This is just the message that's coming through me in regards to the cards that I have on this board. Okay? So, for me, neither responsibility cancels the other one out. Sometimes a boundary is simply where we finally separate those responsibilities. Okay? An example of a boundary. I can set a boundary and I can say, I have looked honestly at what part of this belongs to me. And I am taking responsibility for that. And I'm handing back to you, okay, what belongs to you. Now, that's not superiority. All right. I want to make that clear. It's not me saying that I'm more evolved than you or that I'm better than you. And it's not a punishment. That is stewardship. That is true stewardship. And eventually, a boundary stops being something that you continually announce. Eventually, you stop announcing that this is my boundary because you're living it. It becomes something that you simply live. It is a part of your being. And that may be what is being birthed and becoming part of your experience. I mean, we look at this pathway, right, on the bottom row. We have mature woman, adjudication, and pathway. And then we have great fortune. I mean, this is beautiful because this isn't someone who's bitter. It's someone who has become wise. We have the young man here. He is usually the son here of the main female or the main male, right? And she is usually the daughter of the mature woman. So we have a progression of maturity. We have the baby, we have the young man, we have, the main female, and then we have what can be considered the crone also. Okay? Because the mature woman is someone who is wise. It's like here we are becoming wise. All right? The mature woman has experienced enough to know that discernment is not cruelty. She just chooses another pathway. And at the end of that pathway is great fortune. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that great fortune has to mean money here. We have a lot of money cards on this deck. And I'm not going to say that every single person listening to this is just instantly going to become infinitely wealthy, right? Though, I mean, the cards can speak for themselves. But it's like here you have the mature woman and she's weighing what she's been shown. She's choosing another pathway. This is transformation. This card is also it's a transformative pathway. Okay? And at the end of that pathway is great fortune. So what if the fortune, the great fortune, is what we have realized or recognized as valuable, right? Because remember, the child can be naivety. It can be those beginning stages where we really aren't recognizing what we're holding. But here we do recognize it. It's already been weighed. We are transforming here. So, this great fortune could be our energy, our peace, our dreams. It could be our attention, our integrity. It could be our private world. It could be our heart. And so I feel like I'm speaking to someone who finally understands what they are carrying. And that once you recognized the treasure, you became more discerning about where you place it, right? Because we have a light bulb, we have an anchor, and we have a feather, clarifying this reading here. And these kind of make it clearer for me. The light bulb is conception. It is the idea. It is the inspiration. It's something new that enters our consciousness. And then we have the anchor here. So before we send it out into the world, we ground it. We let it develop roots. We give it stability. We give it time. And then comes the feather. Okay? This is movement. It's lightness. It can be the release of that, right? After it's become stable, it can walk and talk and make decisions and have discernment of its own. We release it to the world, right? It could be even a divine inspiration or intervention also. But I love the feather and the anchor together because one of them is incredibly heavy and the other one is almost weightless. So maybe the message is more about having become grounded enough that we finally become light. Because we have the light here, then we anchor it. Now we are light, right? I mean, that takes me back to the seed. When a seed finally breaks through the surface, too, we don't say, well, you're above ground. Now, good luck, right? No. That first shoot out of the ground is really tender. A raindrop could crush it, right? So we water it carefully, we protect it. Sometimes we put a stake next to it and give it something to kind of lean against until its roots are strong enough to hold it upright. And eventually it becomes established. Eventually it can withstand the sun, the rain, the wind, or the changing seasons. But we don't demand that strength from it the moment it emerges, or like a child. We don't demand that it be able to stand and walk on its own the moment it is born, right? Our dreams deserve the same stewardship. And it's not because everybody around us is secretly wanting to destroy them. Because that would be like us thinking that we're the only good person on earth. Everybody else is wicked, right? We don't want to get trapped into that sort of thinking. Um, Someone might deeply even love you and still project their fears onto your dreams. I mean, that is totally possible. They could be excited for you and then tell 10 different people before you're ready to let anybody know that you are even pregnant, right? With something, with a child. I mean, someone can give you perfectly well intentioned advice, but it causes you to question something that you understood clearly before you ever shared it with them, and now you're doubting it. Now you're second guessing it. Now you're going back and asking questions about it. So everything doesn't need everybody's hands on it while it is becoming. All right? And we have the hand and treasure here. And I don't think I could have asked for a clearer visual representation of what we're talking about, because the hand is what receives, it's what gives, it's what holds, it's what passes things along. And beside that, we have the treasure. So it's like asking, whose hands are you placing your treasure into? Not because everyone's hands are dangerous, right? Thinking about a baby here. It could be your dream. It could be the heartbreak that you shared in confidence. It could be a fear that you shared in confidence. It could be your private story. Could be your hopes. But it's vulnerability. It's vulnerability, right? It's learning to recognize when we've been entrusted with something valuable. And when we have been entrusted with something valuable, do we immediately carry it into another room and just hand it off to somebody else? Because stewardship isn't merely about protecting ourselves. It's about becoming responsible custodians also of what other people entrust us with. Not everything entrusted to us is ours to repeat, right? Like this pendulum swings both ways. And underneath everything is the heart. And I love that because for me, the lesson isn't, not to trust anybody or to close off your heart and hide your heart or, be aware that everybody around you or somebody who knows is fake, right? It's not even that everybody's jealous. For me, it's almost the opposite. It's protecting the treasure while remaining open. So we don't close the heart. We can love somebody without giving them unlimited access to us. We can recognize somebody's limitations without making them our enemy. Yeah, I feel a much cooler oh, yeah. This transformation is big. I just felt a tick on that. So we can establish a boundary without condemning whatever this false person represents. We can recognize what someone has done without pretending that we know why they did it. Also, I mean, we can walk away without needing everybody to understand our decision and without needing to assign a label. And I think that's what the ascended heart asks of us. It's not naivety or paranoia or discernment without division, really, because there's another trap here. I mean, I'll give you an example. There's a trend going around, and I think that's kind of what triggered this, right? Because it's a pretty catchy tune. It says, "Don't tell everybody your dreams. Some people only want to see you down." And maybe that's true. Sometimes it is true. But if we turn that into a worldview, we remain trapped in this me against them, or who can I trust, or who's jealous, or who's watching me, or who's competing with me, or who's sending negative energy. And for me, that's not sovereignty. I mean, it's suddenly everybody else's energy still has control of our attention, right? And if our sense of power relies on finding out who's jealous of us, then we're still allowing their response to define our power. And real sovereignty, I feel, it's more quiet, right? It's more mature, it's more wise. It's when we can look at someone and say, I can see you clearly. I can see behind the falsity, behind the mask, without making you my enemy. I can love you without giving you unlimited access to me. And I can take responsibility for myself without accepting responsibility for your choices. So I can protect what is sacred without living in fear of who's out to get me now. I can nurture this child before exposing it to the world, right? So I can leave a conversation. I can quit being part of the audience without needing to know what was said after I left. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It brings more of a simplicity to it. Instead of making every experience a rabbit hole, not every fake smile needs to be investigated. Some things really can be taken for face value, you know, because we're obviously carrying something very valuable here. I mean, this is a hand holding a treasure, being given a treasure that can be shared. This hand can give and receive this treasure from the heart. And when I look at this main female, this child, this great fortune, this mature woman, the pathway, there's a journey that is happening here. And we aren't necessarily leaving the experience as the same person we were when we entered it here in the center of the reading. But I don't see anything that tells me this person has become hardened either. I see a maturing without that hardening. And maybe the great fortune isn't just something waiting at the end of the pathway. This can be a very valuable transformation. It can be the value that in this transformation, the recognition of the value of what we've been carrying the entire time. It can be having that wisdom now. I mean, our heart is valuable. Our energy is valuable. Our dreams, our attention, our private world, our peace. I mean, how many times have I said, my peace is priceless, right? And once we recognize that, we stop placing that value indiscriminately into everybody else's hands just because they are family or just because they carry the label of friend or confidant. And it's not because we're afraid of people. It's because here we have finally learned how to be stewards of our own creations. And if somebody doesn't like the boundary, if they misunderstand it, if they decide that we've changed, or maybe they think that you think you're better than them now, right? Maybe they talk about us after we leave, when we're no longer in the room. We let that belong to them. That's theirs to own. For real. I mean, we think about that. We give that boundary, gives that responsibility, that accountability back to the one that it belongs to, without judgment, without condemnation, so that we can carry the value that we hold within us, instead of putting it down to carry someone else's responsibilities. Because when we try to force accountability, we put down our treasure. There's one hand here. I know we have two, right? But I think you understand the concept. You know, someone said to me, it took me a minute, but someone said to me, your reputation is what people say about you when you have left the room. But your character is who people experience when you are in it. So you don't have to chase your name from room to room to room, trying to rescue it. Once you've left the conversation, once you've left the audience, don't go back just because you heard they made you the subject. You stop being their audience. Maybe you became the story. But the beautiful part here is you don't have to listen to it. Keep walking the pathway. Protect the treasure. Keep the heart open. And give whatever is being born within you here enough time to develop roots before you ask it to withstand someone else's weather. That's the lesson. That's the wisdom. That's the discernment. Truly. So I want to thank you for being here. These kind of light my fire a bit because I get a lot of the gossip, the he said, she said, wolf in sheep's clothing. This could be wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, it is, the cards speak for themselves, but whoever I'm talking to, there is an immense amount of value here that is coming in from whatever light bulb moment you are having, whatever you are anchoring into. You might have felt stuck, right? You might have felt blocked from having easy money. You may have had to work for everything that you have. But you have a golden heart. So I'll take one more message from the Diary of the Black Sheep. Oops. Okay. I'm going to read these real quickly and then I will let you go because it came out a little bit more than what I expected. and I will take them. Okay, they stick together. But it says, you are looking great and feeling even better. A judgment call has been made on your behalf against those who kept you in a karmic cycle of pain and stress. No longer are you held captive by the traumas of your past. New, exciting opportunities are presenting themselves to you. And yes, there are a few who are jealous of this shift because the karmic scales now balance in your favor. Do not feel bad or guilty for releasing false friends from your life. You have changed tremendously and can no longer unsee the deceptive and envious ways of those you used to call friends. Now you have created healthy boundaries for yourself. That teaches others how to treat you. Some you may develop a new, healthier connection with, while others you may have blocked completely. Either way, you make the right choice. You made the right choice. And your spiritual team is working in overdrive to reward you with your inheritance for all of the hard work you've dedicated. There is a brand new beginning and a firm foundation being laid for you that will last for years to come. Expect the scales will balance in your favor as financial freedom allows you to a life of comfort. This is a well deserved reward for your perseverance and dedication. I mean, these two cards, whatever this lucrative idea, this new income source, inspiration, it could be entrepreneur, a new job, a creative work that breaks through whatever money blocks or it can be financially sound. It could be water related, travel, it could be stable, um, abundance, easy money, divine intervention. It could be divine intervention. Could be light work, air related. But these two cards, this is manifesting money, reaching goals, financial assistance, hands on work, help getting a job, treasure, worry free finances, money in reserve, excess, career, executive sales, planning, hidden talent. That new baby, that new idea may be your hidden talent. It may be what is gestating, right? And heart. This, be careful of the emotional spending. You may have joint finances, but it could be a career as a counselor, a guide. But it's having a job you love, it's doing what you love. Whatever this new birth is, it is something that you love, and it is something that is going to provide long term. So I love each and every one of you and so grateful for your energy. If this message resonated, drop a little feather or light bulb or, heart emoji or an anchor emoji in the comments. I would love to send you some gratitude for it. So I will now return your energy to you, pure and whole, as I receive my energy back, pure and whole, so that only love remains and peace.